Today, a deep dive into Salamander Bay. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to the latest post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. Today I want to take you to Salamander Bay and explore some of the property information that we've been researching in that particular area. And just a quick reminder before we start that on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Sydney time, Joe Wilkes, our New Zealand property expert, will be joining us for a live discussion on Trans-Tasman property. Joe, of course, has significant property experience both in the UK and in New Zealand, and will be able to compare and contrast some of the differences between Australia and New Zealand. So do mark your diaries and join us live, 8 p.m. Sydney, next Tuesday the 25th. Now, this is part of our new service called Dfa One To One. And in fact, we've had a large number of conversations with a number of viewers over the last couple of weeks, and we've got quite a few more booked ahead. And just to remind you, essentially it's a chance to have a one-on-one conversation with me about a particular postcode. We do some research, we look at the latest information with regard to home prices, stress, and also look at some of the price projections ahead. Now, we do charge a small fee for this service, and we are booked out at least the next 3 or 4 weeks. But still, if you'd like a one-on-one conversation, you're welcome to contact me via the DFA blog. Anyway, today what I want to do is just walk you through one that I did a couple of weeks ago, and thought I'd just share with you a bit more information about this particular area and also demonstrate again the sorts of things that we can do with our one-on-one service. Now, I just want to highlight that Dfa One To One is not in any way financial advice or property advice. It's simply my sharing my information based on my models and research. But, it may help people to triangulate information with other sources and form a bit of a view about what's going on. So I'm going to discuss Salamander Bay in New South Wales. That's postcode 2317. And Salamander Bay is a suburb of the Port Stephens local government area in the Hunter region of New South Wales. And here is a bit of a map which may help to locate it. Now, we're going to look at both units and houses in that particular postcode. And we're going to start with my trend data. This trend data comes from our analysis and surveys, and essentially is the median price of houses to start with since 2013. So the average price there was $445,000. It went up 11.2% in 2014 to $495,000. Went up another 6.1% to $525,000 in 2015. Went up by 6.7% to $560,000 in 2016. Went up another 16.1% in 2017 to $650,000. In 2018, it went up another 3.1% to $670,000. 2019, up another 1.5% to $680,000. And this year is sitting at about $690,000, up 1.5%. We can also look at the same information for units. And back in 2013, the average unit price was $280,000. In 2014, it went up by 12.5% to $315,000. In 2015, it went up to $330,000, up 4.8%. In 2016, it went up 9.1% to $360,000. In 2017, it went up another 15.3% to $415,000. In 2018, it went up 7.2% to $445,000. In 2019, it lost 5.6%, down to $420,000. And in 2020, it was flat again at $420,000. Now, we can also look at all of the available data, and we know that current listings in the area are falling, with around 120 in January and down to 80 in August, and with just 20 added in the past month. And by the way, this is in stark contrast to what we're seeing in some of the major centres, and it makes the point that regional centres are behaving quite differently from some of those areas close in to the major centres. Asking prices are on average up somewhere between 5 and 8% over the past year, with houses more buoyant than units. A typical house is on the market for around 695,000 and units around 420,000. Rental yields on houses are rising in the area, with a gross yield now of around 3.9% and a net yield, that's after holding costs and maintenance, of about 1.5%. Yields on units are higher at around 5.7% and net about 3%. And interestingly, vacancy rates have slipped to around 1.4%, and there are about 14 vacancies reported currently. And as a result, rents are rising around 14% over the past year, with a typical house around $525 per week, while units are somewhere around $420 a week. And smaller units, rents, are just beginning to fall now. And the intention to sell is easing in the area. Again, this is in stark contrast to what we're seeing in some of the major centres. The main pressure is rental stress now, and I'll show you that in a moment. And the key risk is external downward economic momentum from more COVID-related closures. And of course, a lot of this area is very much centred on tourism, and of course tourism has taken a bit of a hit in recent months. Now we're going to look at our stress data to July 2020 for this particular postcode. And the first thing to say is there's around 3,400 households. 44% of those households are registering in financial stress. That's a cash flow problem. Around 792 are borrowing, 1,700 are renting. There's around 1,300 properties to rent, and the number of rental property owners living in the postcode, they may have rental property elsewhere, around 820. There are around 132 in mortgage stress, which is only 16.7%, so that's not really serious at all. Risk of default at 2.7% is 21. That's a little bit elevated, but compared to some other postcodes, not particularly significant. Rental stress, though, is significant, with 1,135 households struggling with rental repayments, and that's 66.6% of the households in the area. And finally, of those investors who have an investment property somewhere, around 39.5% of investors are stressed. That's around 43. And interestingly, the national average is 25%, so it's above the national average. This is our core market model forward scenario for home price movements in Salamander Bay. And this is based on all our available data and scenarios. Today we start with 0, 12 months out. If our scenarios at the more positive end turn out to be correct, then we might see prices drop around 5%, a couple more percent the following year, and then flat. On the other hand, if our worst case scenarios play out, then we could see prices down 15% next year and dropping to more than 30% 2 years later. And in fact, our mid path, which is our base case, suggests that over the next 3 years, prices on average could slide around 21.6%. Now, there are differences between units and houses, and I'll come on to those shortly, but this is my base scenario. And then we apply those scenarios firstly to houses. So this is our estimation of what houses may do. And we're estimating price falls of 8.2% in 2021, down 4.5% in 2022, and down 3.6% in 2023. So prices would be ending up around 583,000, which would put it back to where it was in 2016, 2017. Whereas units, we are seeing more significant falls, with, in our base case, prices down 13.5% next year to around 363,000. In 2022, down a further 7.4% to 336,000, and in 2023 down again 5.9% to 316,000. So to sum up, the view that we have is that prices are likely to go sideways or down in this particular postcode, but nevertheless there's been a very significant run-up in recent times, and demand is much more balanced than supply compared with many other postcodes across the country. And so my view is that some regional centres are worth looking at simply because they will hold their value more. They've performed more sustainably in recent years, and houses in particular are probably more interesting than units. Well, I hope you found that useful. I may well do some more of these summaries of the discussions that I've had with individuals. Of course, this is just my opinion. It's not financial advice, but it still gives you a bit of a feel for what's going on the ground. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.